Okay. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddham dhammang sanghang namasami. So welcome to this Thursday evening Sutta discussion, Dhamma discussion at the Empty Cloud Monastery in New Jersey. Recently, you have been seeing Bhante Sumita Thero in this time slot. He's away on a trip at the moment, so I have the honor of giving you an extra Dhamma teaching. We have been looking into the factors of awakening, the 7 Bojjhangas recently. And last week, we looked at the Kaya Sutta, which gave a step-by-step presentation how the factors build on each other, starting with mindfulness, accumulating one by one and building up in that way. In this sutta, there's a presentation with the idea of balancing, so that depending on what the state of mind is, or you could say what hindrance is present in the mind, one could call up the particular factors of the Bojjhangas that will counteract the hindrance that you may be experiencing. And then the next time I speak with you, probably next Wednesday, I have yet another presentation of the Bojjhangas that shows how the factors of awakening can be combined with various types of meditation. We know already that it combines very naturally with the Satipatthana, the 4 foundations of mindfulness, and it combines very naturally with the Anapanasati, the meditation on the breath. It's presented right within those suttas how those practices fulfill the factors of awakening. The one I have for next week shows how the Brahma Vihara practice can be blended with the factors of awakening. So let's look here at this one. This is called Fire, but it's not the famous Fire Sutta, the Adittapariyaya Sutta. This is called the Aggi Sutta. Several mendicants robed up in the morning, taken their woolen robes, entered Savatthi for alms. And then there's a part that's skipped over, which I will summarize for you. They met the wanderers from the other religions. They had a polite conversation, and those wanderers said that their teachers also teach about the 5 hindrances, the corruptions of the heart that weaken wisdom, and their teachers also teach how to truly develop the 7 awakening factors. So they want to know the difference between the ascetic Gotama's teaching and the instruction of their religions. The monks didn't have the courage to answer, so they took their leave and went back to the Buddha and asked what the answer is. And the Buddha gave this answer. Mendicants, when the wanderers of other religions say this, you should say to them, Reverend, which awakening factors should not be developed when the mind is sluggish, and which awakening factors should be developed at that time? Which awakening factors should not be developed when the mind is restless, and which awakening factors should be developed at that time? Questioned like this, the wanderers of the other religions would be stumped, and in addition, they would get frustrated. Why is that? Because they're out of their element. I don't see anyone in this world with its gods, Maras, divinities, this population with its ascetics and Brahmins, gods and humans, who could provide an answer to these questions except the realized one or his disciple or someone who has heard it from them. Elsewhere in this chapter of the Samyutta Nikaya, there are quite a few short suttas that set up the relationship between the five hindrances and the factors of awakening, and include, this is another one that we discussed 2 weeks ago, about ahara, nutriment, nourishing the factors of awakening. And that sutta gave the idea that when you nourish the hindrances by unwise attention to their factors, then you denourish the factors of awakening. And when you denourish the hindrances, that nourishes the factors of awakening. And in some of the cases, as for example, between energy, the awakening factor of energy, and the hindrance of sloth and torpor, those are directly given as factors that solve that developing the factor of energy denourishes the hindrance of sloth and torpor. But in this case, the Buddha goes a little bit further than those specific factors. He says, when the mind is sluggish, it's the wrong time to develop the awakening factors of tranquility, immersion, and equanimity. Those are the last three factors of the factors of awakening. So in the step-by-step process, after one has become mindful, remembered the teachings of the Buddha, remember to practice the teachings of the Buddha, remembering to be present, then one will tend to naturally investigate the states of mind and discover those states of mind that are dark and bright, skillful and not skillful. And when you see the states of mind that are unskillful, you naturally develop energy to take care of those unskillful states. And when you recognize the state of mind as being skillful, you naturally, it arouses the energy to develop those states. And then as a result of that process of knowing how to eliminate the five hindrances, then one naturally enters into the unification of the mind, not being any longer distracted and having the mind distracted and disturbed by the five hindrances, you realize the marvelous, blissful experience when the hindrances and all of the other negativities are temporarily put to sleep, and you can have a very bright, settled awareness without the mind wavering or being distracted by those factors, and even getting a taste of freedom, uh, a taste of what it would be like if the defilements of the mind were permanently destroyed, and that one could experience actual freedom from those negative qualities, and having that direct experience um, is the immediate cause for the arising of piti. Okay, so um, now it comes to the tranquility, immersion, and equanimity. So you may have enjoyed thinking again and again about being present, being mindful, noticing with mindfulness what's going on with the body mind. You may again and again, in a wholesome way, investigate the Dhammas, investigate the states of mind, and one may enjoy the extreme blissful feeling coming with that sense of release. But eventually, that much activity is tedious. The mind doesn't want to continue being that active. And so then at the feeling level, the strong, um, blissful experience of piti calms down into tranquility, which is tranquility of the body and mind. Right? So that's a pleasant and peaceful state. I've regularly had conversations with some meditators, especially those who are elderly, like me, and when we speak about the factor of equanimity, many times people um, have mentioned how that equanimity is pleasant, even though equanimity is associated with the neutral feeling, the feeling that's neither pleasant nor unpleasant, is associated with the factor of equanimity. But then equanimity is pleasant. It's such a relief. When we were young, it was so easy to be emotionally triggered and to get extremely excited by something, or to get extremely upset about something, or to be extremely angry about something. But for those who have accumulated more and more life experiences, then anything that comes along, whether it's something that's pleasant or something that's unpleasant, because of having more life experiences, like been there, done that, nothing to get excited about. And so we experience that tranquility. Well, we were calling it equanimity, but in a certain way, it's kind of like, perhaps I'm pointing to the pleasant, calm, and pleasant feeling. That is what tranquility is. That would be the meaning of tranquility is. So no matter what pleasant contact or unpleasant contact comes along, the mind remains tranquil. And even the extreme pleasure and pain reactions in the body are not happening like the same way anymore. So that's tranquility. And then what immersion, that's Bhante Sujata's translation for samadhi, otherwise known as concentration. The samadhi is that unification of the mind and ability to connect with the object of meditation and to have sustained connection to the object of meditation without any disturbances whatsoever. And then subsequently, the extremely bright mindfulness and ability to perceive the state of mind with tremendous clarity because of that stillness. So that's immersion. And then the equanimity factor in the sutta that we studied 2 weeks ago, it is not just that equanimity is freed from emotional reactions to pleasant and unpleasant contact, but equanimity has the ability to see, and it's overlooking the states of mind. So within that position of stillness, within the very bright mindfulness, the clarity of seeing, that one can perceive the mind itself, and one can watch the mind, which is only possible to do when the mind is very quiet. Why is that? You could say, when the mind is activated, it consciousness inclines towards the object that you perceive. So consciousness is continuously sort of reaching out and making the connection to the object. Because of that tendency of the active perception, which is coming from contact through the senses and accompanied by Vedana, accompanied by different kinds of feeling, even powered by different kinds of feeling, so that when there's a strong feeling, the attention becomes even more attracted or drawn towards focusing and being aware on some particular object that's attracted it. So when that's happening, with that activity of the active consciousness, you don't get a chance to see the mind itself because you always see the object. The philosopher William James was interested in, Western philosopher William James is interested in consciousness, which is sort of the same thing as the Buddhist vijnana. And he wrote, the more he tries to directly experience consciousness, he can never experience consciousness without an object. He always experiences the object, never the consciousness itself. But this promise is that within samadhi, you have the equanimity, you have the ability, because of the mind being perfectly still and not reaching out and grabbing onto various objects. Then you have a chance to see and to have that overseeing the mind itself. But these factors, this tranquility, this immersion, and this equanimity, can fail if the mind is sluggish. So if the mind is dull, you won't have enough brightness. You won't have enough bright awareness. You won't have enough mindfulness. And so then trying to become tranquil, concentrated, and cultivating equanimity, you may just fall asleep, or you may fall into dullness. So the Buddha says, when the mind is sluggish, it's the wrong time to develop the awakening factors of tranquility, immersion, and equanimity. Why is that? Because it's hard to stimulate a sluggish mind with these things. Suppose someone wanted to make a small fire flare up. If they toss wet grass, cow dung, and timber on it and spray it with water and scatter dirt on it, could they make it flare up? No, sir. In the same way, when the mind is sluggish, it's the wrong time to develop the awakening factors of tranquility, immersion, and equanimity. Then he said, when the mind is sluggish, it's the right time to develop the awakening factor of investigation of principles, energy, and rapture. So the Dhamma Vicaya is definitely activates the mind. It's something that can involve contemplation, investigation, and then I didn't mention a couple of minutes ago, I should have mentioned the factor of energy. So arousing energy, arousing the strong determination. So one is forming an intention to practice and strengthening that intention to the level of being an adhitthana, a resolution, a determination, by bringing the factor of a decision to it. One may, if the mind is sluggish, you may be able to arouse energy by recollecting and recalling about spiritual urgency, remembering that we're not going to get an infinite number of chances to have a quiet meditation center and a time to practice formal meditation. Our body and mind might not remain healthy enough and strong enough to practice formal meditation. And even this lifetime can be cut off at any moment. So we could miss the chance to gain the noble attainments if we never got around to practicing formal meditation. And then with that thought, even you could scare yourself by realizing how short and unreliable this life is, and how important it is to appreciate and grab onto the chance to practice. And then thinking to develop the awakening factor of piety, when the mind is dominated by sloth and torpor, that would be a really great achievement if you can do that. Because escaping from sloth and torpor is itself one of the conditions for the arising of piti. But what I have experienced, and I've heard of this as something that's definitely predicted, that can happen to you especially in a long meditation retreat. A person can be like really exhausted, not able to keep an upright posture because they're so exhausted, not able to sustain um, mindfulness for more than a few seconds because they're so exhausted. But if they don't let go of their cushion and they continue practicing, one recommendation at that time is to practice in the standing up posture. So, in order to prevent yourself from falling down, you have to stay awake, or else practicing walking meditation in spite of being tired. Practice standing meditation and walking meditation, and eventually it can happen that you catch a second wind, that your sleepiness disappears, and again the mind is bright. And if you have done your investigation of the Dhamma and you recognize this bright, alert state of mind for what it is, as being something valuable, then you can cultivate and have that bright mind to stay long enough for a piti to arise. So that's how I believe that this would happen. Or even if you've experienced joy and piti before, if the mind is sleepy, you can remember in the past when you experienced piti. And remembering piti can bring up piti and dispel that sluggishness of the mind. The Buddha said, it's easy to stimulate a sluggish mind with these things. I would take this sentence and make it a motto, and remember, like, as a matter of faith, that the Buddha promises, this is one of the Buddha promises, if you just find out how to develop these factors, then you will always be able to get out of a sluggish mind. Because the Buddha promised it's easy to stimulate a sluggish mind with these things. If you want to make a small fire flare up, you may toss dry grass, dry cow dung, dry timber on it. You may blow on it, and don't scatter dirt on it, and that will make it flare up. So then going on, it comes to the case where the mind is restless. The restlessness and worry is udatta kukucha. That's the hindrance. So this is speaking about udatta. So that's part of that hindrance of restlessness. When the mind is restless, it's the wrong time to develop the awakening factor of investigation of principles, energy, and rapture. It's hard to settle a restless mind with these things. Suppose you wanted to extinguish a great mass of fire. If they toss dry grass, cow dung, timber on it, blow on it, and don't scatter dirt on it, did they extinguish it? No. It's the wrong time. When the mind is restless, it's the right time to develop the awakening factor of tranquility, immersion, and equanimity. Um, in my opinion, if the mind is very restless and difficult to control, so restless that it's running away to thinking about the past and future, or thinking about things that are far away from the theme of meditation. It is possible to use devices to get the mind back into the corral uh, by reviewing the factors of the Dhamma that one has learned about. So even like if it's desperate, you could recite the Four Noble Truths and the Triple Gem and the Eightfold Noble Path in whatever language you know. One could recite the factors of awakening and the five hindrances and whatever other list you have learned, and do that just merely to get the mind to not be focused on worrying about your problems or worrying about your shopping list or worrying about something that's completely away, but to bring it back in the field of the Dhamma. But then once you've gotten the mind tethered, you've gotten your mindfulness, you've gotten the mind is like tethered to the stake of mindfulness. Once you've gotten that far, if the mind is still restless, then these factors, tranquility, immersion, and equanimity, can be developed. By remembering times in the past that you've experienced tranquility of the body and mind, and with that recollection, or if you might have some mnemonic trick of memory trick, like a phrase or an image that you've learned that you use to get the mind to settle, to get the body to settle, and just bring that up, and merely by thinking of tranquility, the mind can go towards tranquility. Just thinking of samadhi, the mind can go towards samadhi. Just thinking of equanimity, the mind can go towards equanimity. I base this assertion on the teaching in the Two Kinds of Thought, where the Buddhist had said that what one thinks and ponders on becomes the inclination of the heart. But then developing tranquility, immersion, and equanimity as a means to calm down that restlessness, you will be able to do this because you have already learned what the supporting factors are and how to bring about these wholesome states by bringing about their supporting factors, by nourishing these wholesome states, and by merely practicing mindfulness, which is able to discern and see and recognize these wholesome states when they appear, even if samadhi just appears briefly for a couple of seconds. Sometimes that could happen in meditation. The mind is restless, but then for a second you forgot to be restless and the mind was tranquil. So then, because of your mindfulness is strong, you noticed that brief interval where the mind went into samadhi, and then having clearly noticing it, that by itself is enough to uh, recognize and enable those wholesome states to uh, develop, grow, and become more continuous until one is fully developed into samadhi. And then the Buddha says it's easy to settle a restless mind with these things. And again, he gives the exact opposite of the metaphors. So it's compared to tossing wet grass, cow dung, and timber, or spraying with water, or scattering dirt on a fire that's going too fast. This idea of speeding up and slowing down the fire, does that remind you of anything? When would you want to slow down a fire? Well,
it's too high, and there's a lot of flame. Slow down the fire.
If you're heating your kuti with a wood stove and the kuti is too hot, you want to slow down the fire, right? And you might do that by closing the damper. If you were smelting gold or working with being a goldsmith and working with gold, then the goldsmith has got an open fire, so he's not able to reduce the oxygen like that because he's working over an open fire, right? And he needs to control the level of the fire in order to purify the gold. I think that's probably a very suitable metaphor that's um, matching with this technology that the Buddha is talking about. So if the fire is too hot while the goldsmith is working with the gold, he might toss wet grass, cow dung, and or spray it with water or scatter dirt on it in order to quickly get the fire to go down, right? Because otherwise it could spoil the project he's working on. But if he needs more heat, then he would put the dry flammable materials, and he might have a bellows or something to blow more air on it to make the fire go faster in order to purify the gold. And so just as the goldsmiths working with the gold, this is showing how practicing meditation, it's a type of work, it's a type of karma, it's a wholesome karma. But you can take a very workmanlike approach to meditation, just being practical minded, taking the temperature or doing the assessment of what the quality of the mind is and what ingredients you need to bring into the meditation in order to make the meditation to be successful. And so this is what the Buddha is teaching here. So this is the teaching about how to choose which of the factors of awakening to develop, depending on whether the mind is either sluggish or restless. I was also considering sometimes the spiritual faculties are also spoken of in terms of balancing. In that other list, it's not quite the same. In the spiritual faculties, faith, this is not presented in the suttas, it's presented in the Visuddhimagga. In the sutta, the faculties should be developed in an equal and balanced way so that all of them are present and none of them is neglected. In the Visuddhimagga, it indicates that the faith is a pair with wisdom. So if the faith is too weak, the wisdom could go the wrong direction into skeptical doubt or falling into views. If the wisdom is weak, the faith can go a wrong direction and fall into superstition. If the energy and concentration are given in the Visuddhimagga as a pair, so if there's not enough energy, the samadhi will not function properly. And if there's not enough concentration, the energy will just become restlessness. I did experience this for myself one time in a very real way. When I was just getting started in Buddhism, I hiked the Appalachian Trail. And immediately after getting off the trail, 6 months of hiking, and then I went to the Bhavana Society and sat the winter retreat and went into many, many hours of meditation. But my bodily strength and aerobic fitness were so much stronger than what I had had previously. I had a tremendous amount of energy. It was almost like scary, like how much energy was present in the meditation. But at that time, I didn't have the samadhi. So all of that wonderful physical strength and energy that I had for the meditation was kind of wasted. And if I had at that time developed the knowledge and skill about how to get into samadhi, I would have, I think that would have been like an ideal, truly ideal circumstance. And this is the reason why it's really great when people who are skillful meditators who know how to develop samadhi, if they still have got the fitness for it, if they would undertake a very regular meditation and even be like the ancient disciples of the Buddha or the Buddha himself and walk many hundreds of miles across India and let that be like a, walk 20 or 30 miles and then sit for meditation. That is an ideal way to have physical energy, which supports mental energy, and which then, when that's conjoined with samadhi, then you could really get somewhere with the meditation. In the Visuddhimagga presentation, it mentions that mindfulness is needed in all instances. So you can't have too much mindfulness. Mindfulness supports and helps all of the other factors. If mindfulness is not well developed, nothing will work. So I'm even going to share the screen of the section in the Visuddhimagga. And the reason I'm doing that is that if you're not very familiar with that text, it's okay, just a minute. It can be difficult to follow the citations and find the thing that you're looking for. So here it is. This is in the path of purification. It's in chapter 4, meditation. It's been the section on the earth kasina. It's in the subsection that gives 10 kinds of skill for developing absorption. And the fourth out of the 10 is this here, maintaining balanced faculties. And this is where Buddhaghosa speaks about equalizing the 5 faculties of faith and the rest. And it's just a one-page dissertation, but very often you'll hear Dhamma teachers speaking about balancing the spiritual faculties. And then naturally, if you're a sutta-oriented kind of person, you'll go to say, try to find it in the suttas, but you won't find it there because you have to find it in the Visuddhimagga. So that's my extra bonus tip for you to see that balance is the essence of the middle way. There are so many different types of balance. Okay, so welcome. So I'm not seeing any questions, so we can bring this conversation to a close. Thank you for your dedication to the Dhamma, for listening to the Dhamma, for your practice and for all of your efforts. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.